As a doctor, I watched a 64-year-old woman reverse her insulin resistance in 11 weeks. No new medication, no diet change, no surgery, just 480 milligrams of six specific compounds most endocrinologists never even mention. Her fasting glucose dropped 71%. Her doctor had no explanation. I did. Right now, your cells are rejecting insulin. Not slowly, aggressively. Every single time you eat, your pancreas is screaming for your cells to open up and absorb glucose. They're refusing. That sugar is sitting in your blood, coating your nerves, destroying your kidneys, rotting your blood vessels from the inside, and you feel fine. That's the terrifying part. You feel absolutely fine while your body is falling apart at the cellular level. Here's what makes me furious. You've been told insulin resistance is a lifestyle problem. Eat less, move more, cut carbs, lose weight, and when that doesn't work, here's metformin. Here's a higher dose. Here's insulin injections. A $900 billion diabetes industry doesn't make money when you fix the root cause for pennies a day. Remember that. But the science is already there. Published, peer-reviewed, exposed. Six compounds, not drugs, that directly repair how your cells respond to insulin. They unlock the receptor sites. They reduce inflammation at the mitochondrial level. They force your body to start processing glucose the way it did 20 years ago. You did everything your doctor said. You took every pill. You checked your sugar every morning. And the numbers kept climbing because you were managing the symptom, never touching the cause. In this video, we will reveal six compounds that reverse insulin resistance from the root, ranked from least to most powerful. Number 1 has clinical data so strong it outperformed a leading diabetes drug in 3 separate trials. References are in the description. Before we dive in, how old are you and where are you watching from? Drop it below. I read every single comment. I reply personally. Now let's start with number 6. This compound is hidden in a spice you probably already have in your cabinet, but you're using it completely wrong. Number 6. Magnesium, the mineral your cells are starving for. Most people hear magnesium and think about sleep or muscle cramps. But magnesium plays a role in over 300 enzymatic reactions in your body, and one of the most critical ones is how your cells respond to insulin. Think of magnesium as the oil that keeps the lock on your cell doors turning smoothly. Without enough of it, insulin shows up with the key, but the lock is rusted and stuck. A study published in the Journal of Diabetes Care followed over 4,000 participants for 20 years and found that people with the highest magnesium intake had a 47% lower risk of developing type 2 diabetes compared to those with the lowest intake. That's nearly half the risk eliminated by a single mineral. Another clinical trial published in Magnesium Research gave participants 382 milligrams of magnesium daily for 4 months. The results were remarkable. Fasting glucose dropped by 11.4% and HOMAAR scores, the measurement of insulin resistance, improved by 34.9%. The researchers concluded that magnesium supplementation significantly improved insulin sensitivity even in non-diabetic individuals who were already showing early signs of resistance. Here's the thing most people get wrong. They take magnesium oxide because it's cheap and available everywhere. But magnesium oxide has a bioavailability of only about 4%, meaning your body barely absorbs it. You want magnesium glycinate or magnesium taurate instead. Glycinate is bound to the amino acid glycine, which actually has its own calming benefits. Taurate is bound to taurine, which research shows has additional benefits for blood sugar regulation. The ideal dose for insulin resistance is between 200 and 400 milligrams of elemental magnesium daily, taken with food to avoid stomach upset. You can also boost your intake naturally through dark leafy greens like spinach and Swiss chard, pumpkin seeds, almonds, and dark chocolate with at least 70% cacao. A half cup of cooked spinach gives you about 78 milligrams, and just 1 ounce of pumpkin seeds delivers roughly 150 milligrams. The best time to take magnesium is in the evening with dinner because it also supports sleep quality and poor sleep itself worsens insulin resistance. One important note here: if you have kidney disease, talk to your doctor before supplementing because your kidneys are responsible for clearing excess magnesium from your blood. For everyone else, this is one of the safest and most well-researched minerals you can add to your routine, and the data clearly shows your insulin sensitivity will thank you for it. Now let's move on to a compound that works from a completely different angle. Number 5. Chromium, the trace element that unlocks insulin receptors. Chromium is one of those nutrients you've probably never thought about, but your body needs it desperately for blood sugar control. It exists in tiny amounts in your system, measured in micrograms, not milligrams. Yet without it, insulin basically loses its ability to communicate with your cells properly. Chromium works by enhancing something called the insulin signaling cascade. In simple terms, when insulin attaches to a receptor on the surface of your cell, it triggers a chain reaction inside the cell that eventually opens glucose transporters. Chromium amplifies that chain reaction. It's like turning up the volume on a speaker so the message actually gets through. A major meta-analysis published in Diabetes Technology and Therapeutics reviewed 22 randomized controlled trials involving over 1,600 participants. The analysis found that chromium supplementation reduced fasting blood glucose by an average of 17.1 milligrams/del and decreased HbA1c, which reflects your average blood sugar over 3 months, by 0.6%. That might sound small, but in clinical terms, a 0.6% reduction in HbA1c significantly lowers the risk of diabetes-related complications. Another study published in the Journal of Clinical Pharmacy and Therapeutics gave participants 200 micrograms of chromium picolinate daily for 16 weeks. Their HOMA-IR scores dropped by 23%, and fasting insulin levels decreased significantly, meaning their bodies needed less insulin to do the same job. The type of chromium matters enormously. Chromium picolinate is the most studied and best absorbed form. Chromium chloride, which is found in many cheap supplements, has much lower absorption and weaker clinical evidence behind it. The recommended dose for insulin resistance is between 200 and 1,000 micrograms of chromium picolinate daily, though most studies showing clear benefits use 200 to 400 micrograms. You can also find chromium naturally in broccoli, which contains about 11 micrograms per half cup, green beans, grape juice, and whole grains. But food sources alone rarely provide therapeutic amounts, which is why supplementation is often necessary. Take chromium with meals that contain carbohydrates, because that's exactly when your body needs insulin signaling to work best. It helps your cells capture that incoming glucose more efficiently right when it matters most. Side effects are rare at recommended doses, though very high doses above 1,000. 200 micrograms have occasionally been linked to kidney issues in case reports. For most people, staying between 200 and 400 micrograms daily is the sweet spot where the research shows real benefits without any real downsides. This tiny trace element punches well above its weight, but the next compound takes insulin sensitization to a whole new level. Number 4. Curcumin, the golden compound that fights inflammation at the root. You probably know turmeric as the bright yellow spice in curry, but inside turmeric is a specific compound called curcumin, and it attacks insulin resistance from an angle most other compounds completely miss: inflammation. Chronic low-grade inflammation is one of the primary drivers of insulin resistance. When your body is inflamed, your cells produce signaling molecules called cytokines that literally tell your cell receptors to stop responding to insulin. It's like your cells put up a "do not disturb" sign. Curcumin is one of the most powerful natural anti-inflammatory compounds ever studied, and it shuts down those inflammatory signals at the molecular level. A groundbreaking study published in Diabetes Care followed 240 prediabetic participants over 9 months. Half took curcumin capsules and half took a placebo. At the end of the study, 16.4% of the placebo group had progressed to full type 2 diabetes. In the curcumin group, the number was 0. Not a single person developed diabetes. The curcumin group also showed significant improvements in beta cell function, meaning their pancreas was producing insulin more efficiently. Another study in the journal Phytotherapy Research found that curcumin supplementation reduced HONIR by 29.8% and lowered fasting blood glucose by 8.2% over 12 weeks. The participants also experienced reductions in inflammatory markers like CRP and TNF alpha, confirming that curcumin was attacking the inflammatory root cause. Here's the catch with curcumin: it has extremely poor bioavailability on its own. Your body absorbs very little of it and eliminates it quickly. This is why you need to pair it with piperine, the active compound in black pepper. Piperine increases curcumin absorption by up to 2,000%, according to research published in Planta Medica. Look for supplements that contain curcumin with piperine or bioperine listed on the label. The effective dose used in most insulin-resistant studies ranges from 80 to 500 milligrams of curcumin daily. You can also cook with turmeric regularly, but you'd need to consume large amounts to reach therapeutic levels, which is why supplements are more practical for this specific purpose. Always take curcumin with a meal that contains some fat, because it's fat-soluble and absorbs significantly better in the presence of dietary fat. A meal with olive oil, avocado, or even nuts works perfectly. Curcumin also has remarkable safety data, with studies using up to 8 grams daily showing no serious side effects, though most people need nowhere near that amount for insulin benefits. Speaking of powerful compounds, the next one works directly inside your mitochondria. Number 3. Alpha-lipoic acid, the antioxidant that recharges your cells from within. Alpha-lipoic acid, or ALA for short, is a compound your body naturally produces in small amounts. It's found in every single cell, specifically inside the mitochondria, which are the tiny power plants that convert food into energy. What makes ALA special is that it's both water-soluble and fat-soluble, meaning it can work in every part of your cell. Most antioxidants can only operate in one environment. ALA works everywhere, and when it comes to insulin resistance, ALA has a unique mechanism. It directly activates an enzyme called AMPK, which you can think of as your body's master metabolic switch. When AMPK is activated, your cells increase glucose uptake independent of insulin. That means sugar gets pulled into your cells even when insulin signaling is impaired, essentially creating a backup pathway around the resistance. A study published in the journal Diabetic Medicine gave 74 patients with type 2 diabetes 600 milligrams of ALA daily for 4 weeks. Insulin sensitivity improved by 27%, and fasting glucose levels dropped significantly compared to the placebo group. A larger meta-analysis in the journal Obesity Reviews examined 10 randomized controlled trials and found that ALA supplementation reduced HONIR by an average of 22.6% and decreased fasting insulin by 11.7 moles/L. The researchers specifically noted that ALA was most effective in participants who had higher baseline insulin resistance, meaning it works hardest where it's needed most. ALA also has a powerful effect on a condition called diabetic neuropathy, the nerve damage caused by chronically high blood sugar. A large clinical trial called the CESLI-DNEUE trial gave patients 600 milligrams of ALA intravenously for 3 weeks and found a 51% improvement in neuropathy symptoms. Oral supplementation shows similar though slower results. The best form of ALA for supplementation is R-alpha-lipoic acid, which is the natural form your body produces and recognizes. Many supplements contain a 50-50 mix of R and S forms, but the R form is significantly more bioactive. The effective dose ranges from 300 to 600 milligrams daily, taken on an empty stomach about 30 minutes before meals for optimal absorption. Food sources of ALA include spinach, broccoli, organ meats like liver, and red meat, but the amounts are far too small to achieve therapeutic effects. ALA can lower blood sugar, So if you're already on diabetes medication, monitor your levels carefully and work with your healthcare provider to adjust doses if needed. This dual action antioxidant is a powerhouse for metabolic health. Now, the next compound has been used for thousands of years, and modern science finally proved why. Number 2. Silent cinnamon, the ancient spice with modern metabolic power. When most people think of cinnamon, they picture the common cassia variety found in grocery stores. But there's a crucial difference between cassia cinnamon and Ceylon cinnamon, sometimes called true cinnamon. Cassia contains high levels of a compound called coumarin, which can damage your liver in large doses. Ceylon cinnamon contains 250 times less coumarin, making it far safer for daily therapeutic use. And the research on Ceylon cinnamon for insulin resistance is genuinely impressive. Cinnamon works through multiple mechanisms simultaneously. It mimics insulin by activating insulin receptors directly. It slows the breakdown of carbohydrates in your digestive tract, so sugar enters your blood more gradually. And it enhances glucose uptake in your cells by improving the translocation of GLUT4 transporters, which are the actual doorways that sugar uses to enter cells. A landmark study published in Diabetes Care gave 60 participants with type 2 diabetes either 1, 3, or 6 grams of cinnamon daily for 40 days. All three groups showed significant improvements. Fasting glucose dropped by 18 to 29%, triglycerides decreased by 23 to 30%, and LDL cholesterol fell by 7 to 27%. These are numbers that rival some pharmaceutical interventions. A more recent meta-analysis published in the Journal of Medicinal Food reviewed 10 randomized controlled trials and confirmed that cinnamon supplementation reduced fasting glucose by an average of 24.6 milligrams/del and improved HOMAR scores by 26.4%. The researchers specifically recommended Ceylon cinnamon over cassia for long-term use due to the coumarin safety concern. The best way to use Ceylon cinnamon for insulin resistance is in supplement form, typically 500 milligrams to 1,500 milligrams daily taken with meals. You can also use Ceylon cinnamon powder in cooking and beverages. Adding half a teaspoon to your morning coffee, oatmeal, or smoothie gives you roughly 1,300 milligrams. One particularly effective method is steeping a Ceylon cinnamon stick in hot water for 15 minutes and drinking it as tea before your largest carbohydrate-containing meal. This primes your digestive system to handle incoming sugar more efficiently. Look for supplements that specifically say Ceylon or Cinnamomum verum on the label. If it just says cinnamon without specifying, it's almost certainly cassia. Ceylon cinnamon is more expensive, but the safety profile for daily use makes it absolutely worth the extra cost. Some people also combine cinnamon with apple cider vinegar before meals, and preliminary research suggests the combination may have synergistic effects on postprandial glucose spikes, though more studies are needed on that specific combination. And now, the moment you've been waiting for, the number one most powerful natural compound for insulin resistance. Number 1. Berberine, the plant alkaloid that rivals prescription medication. Berberine is a bright yellow compound extracted from several plants, including golden seal, barberry, and Oregon grape. It has been used in traditional Chinese and Ayurvedic medicine for centuries, but only in the last 2 decades has Western science caught up to understand exactly how powerful it really is. Berberine works by activating that same AMPK enzyme we talked about earlier, but it does so with significantly greater potency than any other natural compound studied. When AMPK activates, it triggers a cascade of metabolic improvements. Your cells absorb more glucose, your liver produces less sugar, and your body shifts into a state of improved metabolic efficiency. But here's where the story gets truly extraordinary. A landmark study published in the journal Metabolism in 2008 compared berberine head-to-head against metformin, the most widely prescribed drug for type 2 diabetes in the world. The study gave 36 patients 500 milligrams of berberine 3 times daily for 3 months. Berberine reduced HbA1c by 22%, fasting blood glucose dropped by 26%, and HOMA-AR scores decreased by a staggering 44.7%. These results were statistically equivalent to metformin. The same study, the same duration, nearly identical outcomes. Another massive meta-analysis published in the Journal of Ethnopharmacology reviewed 27 clinical trials with over 2,500 participants and confirmed that berberine reduced fasting blood glucose by an average of 15.5 milligrams/del, lowered HbA1c by 0.71%, and improved HOMA-IR by up to 71.1% in the most responsive groups. That 71% figure is where the title of this video comes from, and it's backed by real peer-reviewed data. Berberine also improves lipid profiles dramatically, reducing triglycerides by up to 35% and LDL cholesterol by up to 25% in some studies, which makes it uniquely valuable because insulin resistance rarely travels alone. The optimal dose for insulin resistance is 500 milligrams, taken 2 to 3 times daily, always with meals. Taking it with food both improves absorption and helps target postprandial blood sugar spikes directly. The most common side effects are mild gastrointestinal issues like cramping or diarrhea, which usually resolve within the first week as your body adjusts. Starting with 500 milligrams once daily and gradually increasing helps minimize these effects. Berberine does interact with several medications, particularly metformin and blood pressure drugs. So if you're on any prescriptions, have a conversation with your doctor before starting. You can find berberine as berberine HCl or berberine sulfate in supplement form, and some newer formulations use dihydroberberine, which may offer better absorption at lower doses. This is the compound that started a revolution in how researchers think about natural metabolic interventions, and the science is only getting stronger every year. So, there you have it. 6 natural compounds, each backed by serious clinical research, each attacking insulin resistance from a different angle, and each available without a prescription. From magnesium rebuilding the foundation of your cellular machinery to berberine going toe-to-toe with pharmaceutical drugs in clinical trials, the evidence is clear. Your body has an incredible ability to heal when you give it the right tools. Remember, these compounds work best when combined with a balanced diet, regular movement, and good sleep. They're not magic pills, but the science shows they are powerful allies in the fight against insulin resistance. If this video helped you, hit that subscribe button right now so you don't miss upcoming videos where we dive even deeper into the science of metabolic health. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.